Elena Rossi, a 28-year-old marketing executive from Milan, was exhausted. Her life was a monotonous cycle of work, takeout dinners, and lonely nights. She had given up on love after a string of failed relationships, convinced that true love was nothing more than a fairy tale. To escape her mundane routine, Elena booked a solo trip to Sicily. In the evening, she wandered the busy streets of Palermo, soaking in the vibrant culture, the aroma of fresh seafood, and the sound of waves crashing against the shore. But her peaceful getaway took a dark turn that evening. As she walked back to her hotel, a black van screeched to a halt beside her. Masked men jumped out, grabbing her before she could scream. They blindfolded her, tied her hands, and threw her into the van. Elena's heart pounded as the vehicle sped away, her mind racing with fear and confusion. When the blindfold was removed, she found herself in a grand, dimly lit room. The walls were adorned with Renaissance paintings, and a chandelier sparkled above her. Standing in front of her was Luca Moretti, the most feared Mafia boss in Sicily. Luca was tall, with broad shoulders, sharp features, and piercing green eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He wore a tailored black suit, his presence commanding and intimidating. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" Elena demanded, her voice trembling. Luca stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "You must fall in love with me," he said, his voice low and steady. "Until then, you're mine." Elena's defiance flared. "You can't own me." Luca smirked, a dangerous glint in his eyes. "We'll see." Luca's mansion was a fortress of luxury. Marble floors, gold accents, and floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of the Mediterranean. Elena was given her own suite, filled with designer clothes, expensive jewelry, and every comfort she could imagine. But she refused to touch any of it. She spent her days exploring the mansion, looking for a way to escape. But every exit was heavily guarded, and every window was barred. Luca's men watched her every move, their cold eyes constantly reminding her of her captivity. Despite her resistance, Luca was relentless. He took her on extravagant dates, private yacht rides, candlelit dinners on the beach, and moonlit walks through vineyards. He showered her with gifts, but Elena remained cold and distant. One night, after a particularly tense argument, Luca pinned her against the wall, his face inches from hers. "Why do you fight me?" he growled. "I've given you everything." "I don't want your things," Elena shot back. "I want my freedom." Luca's expression softened. "What if I told you I could give you more than freedom? What if I could give you a life you've only dreamed of?" Elena's heart raced, but she refused to let him see her fear. "You can't buy love, Luca." That night, Luca left her room and decided to focus on himself instead of forcing her to love him. As the days turned into weeks, Elena began to see a different side of Luca. Behind the ruthless Mafia boss was a man haunted by his past. One night, during dinner after too much wine, Luca opened up to her. They sat on the terrace, the stars twinkling above them. Luca's voice was heavy with pain as he spoke. "My father was a monster. He ruled this family with an iron fist, and I swore I'd never be like him. But when he was killed, I had no choice but to take his place. This life, it's all I know." Elena felt slightly sympathetic, but she quickly pushed it aside. "That doesn't excuse what you've done," she said. Luca looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of longing and regret. "I know. But maybe you could help me change." One evening, Luca took Elena to a secluded beach. The sun was setting, casting the sky in shades of orange and pink. They walked along the shore, the waves lapping at their feet. "Why did you bring me here?" Elena asked. Luca stopped and turned to her. "Because I wanted to show you that there's more to life than fear and control. There's beauty, too. And I want to share it with you. Elena's resolve began to waver. She had spent so long building walls around her heart, but Luca was slowly breaking them down. That night, they shared their first kiss, a kiss filled with passion, longing, and the promise of something more. Just as Elena began to let her guard down, danger loomed on the horizon. A rival Mafia family, led by the ruthless Vincenzo Russo, declared war on Luca. They saw Elena as Luca's weakness and vowed to destroy her. Luca was torn. He wanted to protect Elena, but he also knew that sending her away was the only way to keep her safe. You need to leave, he told her one night. It's too dangerous for you here. Elena shook her head. I'm not leaving you. Not now. Luca's eyes filled with emotion. Elena, if anything happened to you. I love you, she interrupted, her voice steady. And I'm not going anywhere. The war between the two families reached its climax in a bloody confrontation. Luca and his men fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. Just as it seemed all hope was lost, Elena appeared, armed and ready to fight by Luca's side. Together, they defeated Vincenzo and his men, but not without cost. Luca was gravely injured, and as he lay in Elena's arms, he whispered, "You were worth every second of my time spent with you." After spending 9 months in the hospital with Luca having to go through a major surgery where the doctors had to remove the bullets found in his body, he survived, and with Elena by his side, he began to rebuild his empire, this time, with a focus on justice rather than fear. They married in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by the people who had stood by them through it all. As they danced under the stars on their wedding night, Luca whispered in Elena's ear, "You were my captive, but now you're my queen." Elena smiled, her heart full. "And you were my captor, but now you're my forever."